Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Dianne Burkhart. I hope you will join me every Wednesday as we explore all things to do with, well, books. Let's get on with our show today. Hello, my happy people. Today is September 13th, 2023, and I would like to welcome you to another fun episode of Book Banter with Dianne Burkhart. You are going to love this author that we have today. We had so much fun talking that we decided that we were going to do it again. And she actually interviewed me on her live stream yesterday. And then today you get to hear the interview that we pre-recorded for Book Banter with Dianne Burkhart today. So without any further blather, let's just get right to it. But be sure to stick around to the end of the show because I have got some things to share with you. There's so much stuff going on with Burkhart books. It's just driving me absolutely crazy. And you'll find out why at the end of this episode. So stick around. But for now, please welcome to Book Banter with Dianne Burkhart, Meliza Farndell. I am so excited to have this next guest with me because she has got the coolest series for young readers and so many other things. The variety in her book catalog is just amazing. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks, Dianne. And I'm so excited to be here.
So now, why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners who you are and what you do?
Sure, I will. My name is Meliza Farndell. I am a wife to Clinton. We've been married for 18 years. I'm mom to two amazing teenagers, Aiden, who is 16, and Zoe, who is 13. And I'm also a mom of a fur baby called Izzy, a very smelly bull mastiff, but we absolutely adore her and love her. She is amazing. And I write books. I write Christian nonfiction as well as children's books. And I have also started helping other authors and writers with writing the books that they were born to write. So that is another one of my passions.
That is amazing. And I can tell you, I read your first book in The Unexplainable Encounters of the Mackenzies.
Yes.
And that was so imaginative. I absolutely loved the characters in the story.
Oh, thank you so much. That's always lovely to hear as an author.
You have 3 books in that series. Why don't you give us a little bit of synopsis of each one?
Sure. Okay, so the first book in the series is Molly's Treasure. It starts with Molly waking up on her 10th birthday. She receives a mysterious package. When she opens it, it's a treasure chest and it has the word magic carved on the lid of the chest. So there is a problem. She doesn't have a key to open the treasure chest. And before she could try and unlock it, she has to go to school. And when she arrives at school, there are some difficult things that she has to deal with. She has a bit of a problem with friendships, and something happens that really upsets her, and she runs away. She then ends up in a woodland area. She trips and falls and wakes up in a very mysterious place. And I won't give too much away, but she finds herself in another world and she meets some very interesting characters. One of them is a pirate who, when he looks at you and he smiles at you, it feels like you are receiving a million hugs at once. But she does go through a series of incredible encounters with different characters who teaches her a little bit about true treasure. And does she find the key? Does she find her way back home? Does she manage to find out what is in the treasure chest? Those are the kind of things that you'll have to find out when you read the book.
The characters in that, it was so easy to visualize what was going on in that story. It was so imaginative. I just absolutely was entranced reading that one.
Oh, that's wonderful to know. Yes, so it starts with Molly's adventure, and then Molly has a younger brother called Toby. So the very next book is really about his journey. And he discovers that he is chosen for a special mission in this same world. It's called the Isle of Whimsy, where he needs to go and help them get free from some trolls that has taken possession of the land. And he is chosen for this mission. And he has to come to terms with the fact that he is called to do this mission. And even though he feels insecure and he doesn't have the ability that is required to fulfill the mission, he kind of discovers that there is the heart of a hero inside of him. So that is book number 2. And then book number 3 is a very special one. It's one that I dedicate to every mom on the planet because it's actually the encounter of Molly and Toby's mom. She wakes up on the Isle of Whimsy and she is 10 years old again. She has got a special mission as well. She has to go and rescue the lighthouse keeper's son. And in that journey, she also discovers or rediscovers all the passions, all the things that she loved as a child. And she discovers that the power in the things that she loved and that she was good at. Again, it's a journey of discovery. And I would say that the main message behind these books is just realizing our unique gifts and that, you know, sometimes we can look for magic out there to come and fix our problems or change our circumstances, but the real magic is really on the inside of us. It's the things that we were created to enjoy and to love and the things that we are passionate about. For me, the important message was that we are not victims to our circumstances because all of the children, all of the characters or the main characters of the stories, they have got some challenging circumstances to deal with, and each individual has got a different set of circumstances, different challenges. And for me, the important thing was to take them and take the reader on a journey of discovering how amazing they are, the magic that's inside them, and that they really were created with the heart of a hero.
And that seems to be a main theme in a lot of the things that you do, the things that you write, your journals, your coaching.
Yes. Yeah. For me, it was the biggest lie I ever believed was that I was a victim of my circumstances or I was a product of what was happening to me. I suffered a trauma when I was 7 years old, and it kind of ushered in a lot of shame and fear and guilt. And I started to believe that I was powerless. I didn't have the ability to really change the narrative of my own life. And I saw that same mindset forming in my kids. And I noticed that they are so different. They have a different personality. They have different gifts. They have different strengths. They have different weaknesses. But they also had a unique set of challenges. And I was really getting worried as a mom, kind of looking at my kids as they were growing up and thinking, how do I get them to learn this lesson that took me such a long time to learn, that I wasn't at the mercy of what was happening to me, but I actually had everything I needed to change the narrative, to change the circumstances, and I had the ability to choose how I respond to the things that was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually sitting one evening just with my journal and praying and pondering this question of how do I prepare my kids? How do I teach them to be more resilient? And this story was just downloaded. I received Molly's Treasure. As I was sitting with my journal, just writing, I saw all these characters and I saw the storyline. And I wrote the entire outline for the book just in my journal.
Oh, wow.
And then I shelved it. I shelved it for a long time. And it took me a while to get the courage to write the stories. Initially, it was only the first story. It was Molly's Treasure. And I thought it was just going to be the one book. But then I wrote the book and I was just getting ready one day for the day, getting dressed, and the next minute Toby's story came, and it was just wonderful to kind of see how this character started to develop and grow into a story and an adventure of his own. I actually wrote Toby's battle on the school run.
Oh, wow.
Like picking up my kids from school. I only had a very tiny amount of time. But again, I had such a clear outline. I knew exactly what his journey was going to be and the lessons that he would learn. And so I sat in my car writing Toby, waiting for my kids to come out of school.
So what was that final push that got you to publish them?
Well, actually, I had this amazing encounter with God when I was watching a movie called Tangled, the Disney movie Tangled.
Oh, yeah.
And I received such a change of heart when I discovered who I was, like my true identity. It put some fire in my belly and it gave me a lot of courage that I didn't have before. I realized that I was believing a lot of lies about myself. I was believing a lot of lies about who God was and that he wasn't this judgmental guy sitting in the sky waiting to zap me every time I made a mistake, but that he's actually calling me a daughter and I have got his spirit living on the inside of me. I have got authority and power to do things that I didn't think I was capable of doing. I was full of fear. I was very nervous to even just have conversations with people. I'm such a different person. I'm still being, I call it untangled from all the lies that I believed about myself. So I wanted to share that information with people who was going through the same struggle of feeling insecure, feeling like God was disappointed with them, feeling like they were a victim of their circumstances. And I knew that there was something in me that wanted to share that message with the world. It took me about 10 years to work up the courage to do that. I had to get, first and foremost, I had to get untangled from a lot of the lies and insecurities that I believed about myself. And that was a process of really identifying what those things were and then starting to come into alignment with the truth of who I really was. And eventually, with a lot of encouragement from my other half and a lot of encouragement from friends and family, as I started opening up and sharing more about my experience, they really encouraged me to write. And then I found a mentoring and training program specifically for people who write Christian nonfiction, and I decided to go down that path. So the first book I wrote was the book Untangled, which shares that message of how I was breaking free from the lies I believed that kept me from my true identity and purpose in life. So it was that process really that started to open up just room to believe that I was capable of writing and sharing these messages. So when I wrote and published Untangled, I started to remember my journal with the story of Molly and that moment of sitting with my journal. And once I started to get these vivid imaginations of all these characters and all these amazing stories, I started to go back to that journal. I picked it up and I started writing. But I would say it was Untangled, or writing and publishing Untangled, that kind of gave me the courage to go back to the journal and start to write Molly's Treasure and publish the book.
I would imagine that whenever you were publishing that first book, especially one that is so personal to your own experience, how did you deal with the anxiety around that? Because I'm sure there had to be quite a bit.
Yes, there was a lot of anxiety. I think one of the things that I find is often missing from the kind of circles that I moved in at the time was that openness and vulnerability to share the pieces of our hearts that are maybe not so pretty. opening up about our struggles. So it was a very vulnerable message to share. I think the thing that shifted me out of that place of fear was just doing it, just taking that first step to write and publish a blog or write a social media post and putting little pieces of myself out there before I published my book. Mm-hmm. One of the things I started doing just to get some practice in writing and practice in sharing was to start a blog and to share that. So it didn't feel so overwhelming at the beginning. And what I've discovered is that the more I was doing that, the more I hit that little publish button, the less that publish button became intimidating.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember the first time I pressed that button, my hands were sweating, my heart was pounding. I was so nervous.
Well, you're putting your thoughts and your ideas out into the public to be judged. That can be nerve-wracking.
Yes, it is. It is. And I would be lying if I said that there aren't times when I still feel nervous. But I imagine that person who is struggling with that same thing that I was struggling with. So when I feel fearful or intimidated by putting something out, I think of that person and I think of the amazing creators of the movie Tangled. I think of the amazing books that I've read on my journey that has shifted me and helped me process a lot of the things that I needed to process. If those people were too scared to create something or to write something, I don't think I would have had the same journey or experience that actually led me to that point of discovering who I was, not just as a writer, but as a person. So I am so thankful for the brave people because I think anything you create is open for judgment, right? Mm-hmm. So I am so thankful and grateful for the people who have put their hearts on the line so that I could discover my identity and freedom. And that's what I hope to do every time I put something out there, is to tell somebody a little piece about who they are and the magic that's in them.
Do you have a coaching program, or are you doing the coaching just through published books?
I do have a free coaching group on Facebook for writers who feel called to write. For me, writing wasn't just about writing and publishing a book, but I had a sense of purpose behind it. For me, really, I wanted to share a message, and I knew that that message was part of my design. It was something that was wired into me even before I was born. And I wanted to help people who felt like that to write and publish the stories and the books that they feel called to write. So I do have a book called Answering the Call to Write. And that book, I share my entire writing and publishing experience, some of the pitfalls, some of the mistakes to avoid, but also some simple action steps that you can take if you are just starting out and you want to answer your call to write. As part of my coaching, I have a coaching group. I've got some coaching programs. I help people manage all different aspects that comes with being a writer and author. You probably have had a similar experience when you set out to write and publish your books. For me, I thought that writing was just going to be, I'm going to write my book and then I'm going to hit the publish button and then the book will be out there and people will know, and that's the end of the story. And then I discovered that I actually have to steward this message. I have to go out there and tell people about the books. I have got to share that these books are available. And suddenly there were all these things I had to learn about: how to market my book, how to create an audience, how to build that audience and nurture that audience. I had to learn about social media and just so many things that felt overwhelming when I started out. And then I had a lot of people contact me who's been watching silently behind the scenes and watching me do all these things. And they wanted to write and publish books. And I organically started to just help people with their journeys. And then I realized that there's actually a lot of people who struggle with putting their stories out there. So I wanted to create an opportunity where people could just come and have some community and receive some coaching. And if they want to have something specific, one of my strengths is really helping people discover that message that is unique to them, and then helping them structure that message, and then also helping them to connect that message with the right audience. Because I don't think that we are called to reach every single person.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, we have got a specific type of person, a specific audience that we are called to reach. And when we try to reach everybody, we're going to miss the mark. But when we know exactly the one person, who that person is that we are trying to reach, then we have got a bigger chance of hitting the right target, reaching the right group of people.
Well, I often tell people that writing the book and publishing it is the easy part. After you get the book out there, the hard part is getting people to know that the book is out there and doing all of the marketing and the social media and the engagement and mailing lists and book funnels. And there is so much more to putting out a book than most people even realize.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true. And so my dedication to people who are in that process of writing is helping them think about things that they haven't even thought about when they start out to write their books. There are so many things I wish I'd known before I started. So those are the things that I love to help people with, whether it's through my books, because I've got some books and workbooks for writers, but then I also have some coaching programs and this community group that I regularly, every week, we look at how to not just write your book, but how to get that message out.
I often feel sorry for like some of the other authors who never have any experience in like marketing or advertising. I worked in marketing and advertising for more than 20 years, and I struggle with my own marketing because markets change so much with technology, trying to reach people, different hashtags, having to know SEO. The technology is changing almost every day, and you have to keep up with this stuff, and it can be a challenge. And,
Yes.
here I have this background and my husband works in IT. So I have resources here that other people do not have, and I still struggle hitting my markets. So I can't imagine what it's like for people who come into this and they have no experience, no resources, and they're trying to figure this all out.
Yes, yeah. And I by no means think I have got it all sussed. I am learning, but I'm taking people on that learning journey with me. So we are constantly discovering new strategies and new ways of getting the message out there.
And I tell you, this podcast was one of the best things that I ever did for my own career. I'm not dragging in a lot of people to my books because I try not to talk too much about my books whenever I'm doing interviews. But I am learning so much from each author that I interview. I have picked up tips on SEO, on marketing. I got tips from you on how to do better AI things for my covers. I mean, it's just incredible what I'm picking up from every person that I talk to. It's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. I love what you shared on your first podcast about how, it was people who helped you on your journey. You had your friends and your mom and your sister and your husband. And I think for me, that has been single-handedly the biggest help, was the people that we connect with. Mm-hmm. Everybody has got something to bring to the table. And when we start to connect with the right tribe and with the right people, then it makes the job so much easier.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
Yes. It takes the pressure off as well. Everything is not on your shoulders. And it's okay to ask for help.
Well, and plus, a lot of the times I think the things that I'm struggling with are because I do have neurological problems. I do have problems concentrating. I was having a horrible time this morning before we started this interview. And I think that a lot of my problems that I'm having are because of those issues. But then I'll talk to somebody else who is like a best-selling author and they've got the same issues. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
okay. It's just the process.
Yep. That's so good. That's so true.
So it really does help you to put your own struggles in perspective when you start to network and talk with other people and find out what they're struggling with. And everybody keeps interconnecting and giving hints to each other to help us all get a little bit further along.
Yes, that's true. I was very blessed to connect with some great people when I was writing my very first book. We were all doing the same mentoring program and we all started connecting, and then we started to share experiences, what we've learned. Somebody was very strong on social media side, and then somebody else would bring the mailing list and MailChimp and all these technical platforms. They were very good at navigating that. And we all banded together and we really learned so much. And if it wasn't for that team of people, I don't know what I would have done without them, because it is a lot. It's a lot to learn.
Yeah, it is. It's like whenever I did my first book, it was right when we moved to Germany. I had written it when we lived in Denmark, but I hadn't done anything with it yet. And then we moved to Germany and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this. And I had nobody locally to network with. And I hadn't really been spending all that much time online. So I really didn't have a tribe to connect to and help me figure this stuff out. So I was just throwing stuff up on Amazon and doing a quick little website over here for free and trying. I just did everything by trial and error. It's like, okay, that didn't work. Let's try something else.
Yes. Yeah.
And it took a long time. I think if I'd had a little bit of a networking platform at the time that I was trying to do this, I probably would be a little bit further along, but that just wasn't my journey.
Yeah. Yeah. But the beautiful thing about navigating that struggle or challenge is that you end up with a skill set that is just invaluable. I bet you've learned so much in that process of figuring it all out that you have a wealth of knowledge that you can share with others.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing as long as you just keep going. That's the one thing. I always try to impress upon people that there is no real failure. It is experience.
No. Yes.
You tried something and it didn't work and you learned that. You learned that didn't work. That's not a failure. That was an education.
Absolutely.
So now you take that information and you go try again with a better set to start from.
Yes.
You know what didn't work. So now you go on and try something else. And if that doesn't work, that's fine too. You just have more skill set to build on until you find what does work.
Absolutely. I think there's a huge temptation to give up. I had to republish Molly's Treasure 3 different times.
Mm-hmm.
So invested in that process, time, money, effort, my emotions.
Yeah.
And then starting from scratch again. It just felt very demotivating. But I am so pleased I didn't give up, because at the end of the day, it is about that little person who reads the story and go on the adventure and discover something amazing, not just about the character, but about themselves. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing that keeps me motivated when I do feel like, oh, goodness, this is so much. This is a lot to deal with or to process. It's like remembering the why, I think, is the important thing. Why are you writing your book? And who are you writing it for?
Okay, now this is the point of the show where I try and do 5 quick questions that never turn out to be quick, but we're sticking with the bit.
Okay.
So question number 1. What is your favorite food or drink from childhood that you cannot stand now?
Oh, that is a difficult one because I love food. I've never had a problem with any specific food group.
What about a reverse? What's something that you hated as a child that you love now?
I tell you, there is something, and it is a traditional South African food called boerewors. which is like a sausage
Mhm.
with beef on the inside. I never used to like sausages very much, in particular when I was a child. And now I live in England, the land of bangers and mash and sausage is like a staple over here.
Yeah.
But this particular brand of sausage, or boerewors, I think because I live in a country where it isn't so easily available anymore,
Mhm.
I've come to really love it. So when I have an opportunity to eat it, I absolutely love it. And I would avoid it like the plague when I was in South Africa, growing up there.
Isn't it funny how that kind of thing happens?
Yes.
The question 2. Which book do you always recommend to friends as a must read that is not yours?
Oh, I have the most favorite book ever, which is by the author John Aldrich, and it's called Waking the Dead. This book was just a life-changing read for me, and one of the books that I bonded over with my husband as well. So it's one of those books that I have copies in my house just
Mhm.
in case I need to give it to someone.
Oh, that's great. I love whenever somebody has a book like that. I have a book that I have like several copies that I keep. So if I want to give it to somebody, I don't lose mine, but
Yes.
they can have
Yeah.
it. So question 3. Now, which one of your books do you recommend to people as a must read?
Wow, that's a difficult one. Well, if you're an author, or a writer, just starting out with writing, I highly recommend Answering the Call to Write. I actually offer a free copy of that book, a PDF copy, in my Facebook group or coaching group to anybody, because I just think that is an absolute necessity, just to give you a heads up of what to expect when you're writing a book. So I guess it depends on who I'm talking to. And I would recommend Untangled for anybody who struggles with fear, insecurity, and just not knowing who they are or what they are created to do.
Question 4. What
Mm-hmm.
inspires you the most for your book ideas?
I think there is a main theme that comes out of all my writing, and that is helping people to discover who they are. And for me, that came from my faith and my relationship with God. I'm not talking about really religious practice, but rather having a relationship with God. So a lot of my writing is inspired by my faith and belief and relationship with God.
Now, question 5. For you, what is the best part about being an author?
But these questions are so difficult to choose just one thing.
This is why they never end up being quick.
I'm going to cheat. Can I cheat? I love the creative process. I'm always amazed by what comes out of the imagination. I think it's such a powerful gift that each and every person has, is their imagination. I love the creative aspect of it. And I also love the people that I get to do it with and the people that I get to do it for. There's nothing better than hearing from someone who's read your book and they've enjoyed it, or they've had a moment of just something clicked for them, or it's changed something for them. I absolutely vibe off of that.
I tell you what, one of my favorite things is whenever I have had people tell me that book made me cry. And it's because the idea of just being able to move someone so much emotionally that they cried for your characters is like the best thing that anybody has ever told me.
That's awesome.
Because, whenever I'm writing these stories, I don't think about that. That's not my intent. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just telling the story.
Yeah.
But to understand that what I've written has moved somebody so much emotionally that they care that much about the characters that I created,
Yeah.
that's just mind blowing.
I know. But you know what amazes me is I think of that experience of sitting in the cinema watching the movie Tangled and how it transformed my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the creators and the animators and the people who put the story together for that movie weren't even thinking that this was going to have such a huge impact on my life, but it changed everything for me. So I just think it's amazing what we can do with storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
And how it connects with the hearts of people. It's awesome.
There was actually an episode of Star Trek Voyager that was one of those, oh my God, kind of moments for me.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember, I think the title was something like Puzzle or something like that. But Tuvok, the Vulcan that's on the ship, ends up having an accident and he becomes brain damaged. And he's now struggling with all of these personality changes and abilities to think and reason. And the things that he's going through and the things that he's doing in the show, I'm like, oh my God, I know exactly what that feels like. And watching that show, I had the first moment of there is somebody out there in the world who understands what I struggle with.
Yeah.
And that was just so profound. And I'm sitting there thinking, I just got this moment from an episode of Star Trek Voyager. It's
That's
like people
powerful.
don't think that shows like that could give people that kind of a moment in their life.
Yes. Yeah.
But that sci-fi TV show gave me a moment of being understood.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
That is powerful. That's powerful. Yeah.
And just to think that there was just, writers sitting in a room. It's like, what can we do for this next episode?
Yes.
They're not thinking we need to change somebody's life. What are we going to write? They're
Let's
just
change Dianne's life.
But their writing and their directing and their acting gave me that moment.
Yeah.
So it is incredible what creative processes that people put out into the world can actually do for other people that they have no idea how they're impacting strangers.
Exactly.
So now, is there anything that you think our audience needs to be aware of with you or your work that we have not covered?
Just maybe that I am very approachable. If you need help, if you would like to talk about one of the books, always feel free to get in touch. I am a person who loves to help people. So I'm very open to conversation and exploring things. Always feel free to talk and reach out.
And we are going to have all of your contact information in the description for this podcast. It'll be available on our podcast host, which is Buzzsprouts, and on our website, burkhartbooks.com. And it will be there as long as we have a podcast. So whenever people find your episode, they can come and find you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with me today. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Oh, thank you, Dianne. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
So there you have it, my interview with Meliza Farndell. We had such a great time talking that she actually invited me onto her YouTube channel chat. And we had another discussion there, which actually was a live chat yesterday on her Facebook page. If you go to her channel, which you can find in the links in the description of this podcast, you can actually see another conversation that we had yesterday on her YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out. Now, as far as things that are going on for Burkhart Books, I do actually have everything completed and uploaded on Amazon so that the 7th and final book of the Into the West Saga serial, Into the West Family Ties, is ready to go. If you go on right now, and I highly suggest that you do, and pre-order the ebook version of Into the West Family Ties, you can get it for only 99 cents. That price will be going up on October 1st to the regular cover price, but for now, it is only $1. Now, if you're not inclined to start a series with the last book, I have another deal for you. Starting this Friday on September 15th until the 19th, you can also download for free from Amazon the first and second book of the Into the West Saga serial. I have a book that is A New Home, the special edition. because what is special about it is it actually has books 1 and 2 of this saga serial in one volume. And for 5 days, you can download that for free from Amazon. You will be able to find a link for all of these things on our webpage, burkhartbooks.com. It's at the very top of the front page right now, so it's very easy to find. Now, don't forget, coming up October 1st, we have the new companion magazine, Book Banter Magazine. And I can tell you, I had been stressing about this because I'm writing all of the articles and doing all of the layout. And I was like, how am I going to get all this stuff done in time? But actually, I sat down yesterday and wrote several of the articles and sent them off to the authors that they're about to have them give it a look over and see if there's anything they want to add. And it really came back to me so quickly. My journalism passed and I was just pumping out articles. So I'm losing a lot of my stress and just falling back into the enjoyment of doing this kind of a thing. And I am having so much fun putting together this magazine, and I cannot wait to bring it to all of you. The flipbook program that we have has animation and this great background, and it's just going to be so much fun for you to check out. So keep watching all of our social media because we will be putting up links to the bookcase that's going to start having all of the Book Banter magazine issues in one place for you to find. And don't forget, for Christmas, we're going to be putting together the Book Buyer's Guide that is going to have a mention from every author we have spoken to since season 1. And then going forward, every year at Christmas, we will put out a new buying guide with the authors from that particular season. Since we didn't do a book buying guide last year, we're including season 1 in with our season 2 authors so that we can get everybody included. So keep watching for all of the things that are coming up with me and Burkhart Books. I also have 2 new books that I'm working on. I have my medical autobiography, which is Free Bad Haircuts with Each Craniotomy, which talks all about my neurological problems and the surgeries and recovery and how I got to where I am today. The other book is a fiction book that I have been dying to write, and I'm so looking forward to finishing this one. It is an FBI profiler thriller that is called The Touch. And we're going to have a lot more on that coming up here in the future. Hopefully, I'll have a few little sneak peek pages ready for that in November. Cross your fingers on that one. Now, be sure to check out next week's episode when it is just going to be me, and I'm going to be reading from Into the West Family Ties. I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of all of the books in the Into the West saga serial and give you information from The Touch and Free Bed Haircuts with Each Craniotomy and reading a little bit from both of those books. So we're going to have a lot to do next week, and I have got so much stuff to get done. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show now and get back to work. So you all know what time it is. Time for you to go forth and be really happy.